Rebecca, what do we know thus far? Because it's really as though these two have been dragged kicking and screaming to try and get to the table and thrash out something.
Well, this is an excellent scoop from my colleague Jenny Leonard, as you say, and it has been a long-standing discussion here. The US for months now has been trying to sort of invoke support from Japan and the Netherlands to support the US restrictions on chip and chip exports. And it's absolutely critical for the US to engage a multilateral response here. They need the Netherlands and Japan both to buy in, basically, essentially, because without their support, China could quite effectively find ways to circumvent and boost its domestic chip production, which Beijing, of course, is funneling lots of cash towards. So we know that discussions between the Netherlands, Japan, and the US have been going on late into Thursday in the US day. We're expecting those negotiations to be finishing and concluding sometime Friday during US hours, although we're not expecting some very public statement. We do have some details as well on what these type of restrictions might involve. So on the Netherlands part, it looks like this could involve widening restrictions on ASML, particularly to restrict their so-called deep ultraviolet lithography. So this is the equipment that is absolutely critical for when it comes to China creating and making its own advanced chips. And Japan also expected to enforce similar sort of restrictions on Nikon too.
Okay, so this also begs a question as to what China's responding with.
Absolutely, and it's worth noting that Beijing's response so far to all of these restrictions, including lots of the chatter that Japan and the Netherlands might step in to support the US here, has been relatively muted. We haven't seen much of a strong response. We, of course, have seen some Chinese diplomats here and there, Liu He, for one, for example, talking to Yellen, saying that the US needs to rethink its approach to economic and trade policy and technology policy, but really not a sort of bombastic, explicit response. One thing to watch, of course, is once we're on the other side of some of the disruption of reopening after COVID-0, and we have this new economic team in place in China. Remember, we are in this odd sort of interregnum period where we are expecting a sort of transition of new top leaders into the Politburo and so on. Once that happens, we may see some more firmer, concrete policies emerge. The other thing to watch, of course, is we do have some very high-profile visitors and diplomats from the US to China coming up too. Antony Blinken expected to come very shortly, and Yellen, of course, also now planning to come too.